I got caught.
Hello, if you have made it to this video, well, guess what? You need to know everything about rehearsal because it is one of those, I'm going to say, underestimated times to get ready for your wedding day. And it's kind of pretty big because it helps with all of the ceremony stuff, where people need to be and when, no matter how much you've sent them. Anyways, it doesn't matter. Here's what we're going through today to make sure that you are prepared. Firstly, feel free to send this to anyone that you want to. I recommend an officiant. It doesn't, if you're getting married at a church, they're good to go. You don't need to send it to them. But if you have like a family member or somebody who doesn't do this all the time and you want to send it to them, feel free to do so. Send this out to your wedding party if you want. That's totally fine. I'm going to probably make mistakes here along the way as I talk because this is my first time recording this video, but that's okay. They'll get to know me. Hi, I'm Stephanie. I'm the 6'2" tall wedding photographer with curly hair who will be showing up on the wedding day to photograph their day if you are here. But here's what we're going to go through: how it works to have a rehearsal, what are some of my best practices, and what to expect. Again, very basic outline, but let's just dive right in. When you are prepping for rehearsal, rehearsal is all about what needs to happen. I'm going to say the next day, but sometimes it can be a couple of days before your wedding for the ceremony itself, right? What needs to happen? And then people always ask what's happening outside of them, what's the timeline for the day? And no matter how many times you lovingly email them or text them a copy of the timeline, having physical copies of the timeline is best. I finally got a printer at home. It took me 2.5 years. But before then, I was printing at my local UPS store, or I was printing at, I think the library still does it, but I use UPS because it was right down the street. But have physical copies of your timeline with you. There are going to be certain things that people are going to ask, like not necessarily immediately, but there are certain things that people need to know that you're going to need to tell them. Example, Shannon is getting fully dressed at 1 p.m. on her wedding day. She needs everyone else to be fully dressed by this time. And the reason for that is because when we are having photos taken, you want to look good in photos. This means mom too, right? Mike is also getting fully dressed at 1 p.m. He needs everybody to be fully dressed by then, except for him. So that way, as they are helping, they are able to get nice pictures with him, helping him, the candid, non-candid photos. And also, if anyone else wants to be involved in that. Example, he wants his mom involved in helping put on his boutonniere, straightening up his tie. I love that. She needs to be fully dressed though, because she's not going to want to look back on those photos if she's in like a robe or a t-shirt and still has hair curlers in. Nobody wants that. Just make sure they're fully dressed. And if it looks like they are fully dressed way too ahead of time for the wedding, that's not necessarily as big of a deal as you might think. So after you have printed copies of the timeline and you have, you're talking to people about when they need to be ready when, or if you're doing it, sometimes people do that before the rehearsal, sometimes people do it after the rehearsal, whatever is up to you and when you want to talk to people about that. I will say though, when you arrive, it's the most fascinating thing I've ever seen because I've been to several rehearsals now. Human beings are parking lot people. I don't know how to describe that. We get out of the parking lot instead of going, like, if it's decent weather, we're outside talking to people because you now see your uncle, you now see one of your best friends from college, you now see your little sister, and oh my goodness, we're just talking. We don't want to go inside yet because we don't want to be like too early or whatever it is for rehearsal. And so we end up talking in a parking lot. And that happens 9 out of 10 times. And that's totally fine. But I would recommend that you as the couple put 2 people in charge. Just put the most trustworthy, responsible person in charge. I recommend you have 2 people for this. One of them sets a timer 10 minutes before rehearsal. The other sets a timer 5 minutes before rehearsal. That 10-minute one is like, all right, maybe we should start thinking about going inside, gathering up. Who else do we need? Let's make a list of who isn't here yet. 5 minutes before timer is for, all right, we need to actually start shuffling inside. We need to go. You need to have a person who is good at shuffling people inside. People want to talk, and I love that for you. They will have time to talk afterwards, though. There's responsibilities that need to happen, and then you can have the fun. That's just the best way to get through rehearsal. So that's the prepping of rehearsal. Now, when you actually start rehearsal, here's what I recommend. We're going to go through these big basic outlines of rehearsal. We're going to talk about how to begin. We're going to talk about a basic outline, and we are going to go through transition run-throughs. None of this might make sense to you, and that's okay. And again, if you are getting married in a church, they more than likely will have very basic things that you have to go through, or basic questions, I should say, that you have to answer. They usually have things run the same way every single time, and they will help you through that. This is for if you don't have that. This is what we're going through. But also, if you're getting married in a church and you just want to know what the heck to expect, this is what I've seen the most often. Where and how you begin is actually up at the front. It's not walking in to begin with. It's actually up at the front, typically. This is the easiest way to do things because the walking up, it just makes things confusing. I don't particularly like that. Some people will have you do it like a coordinator will. I don't think it's the best way. I think the best way is to go right here and know where these people are going to be standing and also how they're going to be standing. Do you want the guys to stand left over right with their hands? Do you want them to, how do they look space-wise? How is that going to happen? You two are not starting here, actually. So just ignore you two right here. You need to have your people stand where they're going to stand. You two actually begin in your first transition. As the couple, you are starting here. This is your first transition. This is at the very end of the aisle. It's rehearsal. So you have not walked up the aisle yet. You're just here for the beginning of rehearsal, okay? You can see where everyone is standing. You need to practice this first transition because it is the most awkward. And it also starts like the entire ceremony off. So this is why we're doing this first. I'm going to use this in heterosexual terms. If you are doing something else, we will have talked about it during your timeline. But if you want to know in general, this is the way how I recommend it. Whoever is walking the bride up the aisle is going to be in charge of most of this transition. If you're walking yourself up the aisle, you don't have to worry about this. You've got a much easier life. But either way, I recommend the groom comes up and meets your bride. And then I recommend, I'm going to put dad here in these terms. So again, if you're doing something else, you can fit that in. Dad is doing most of the work here. So dad is either going to shake the hand of your groom or hug him. And then he is going to turn to the bride and hug her, give her a kiss on the forehead, whatever. Then he is going to take bride's hand and groom's hand and join them together. I personally recommend this transition because it's the easiest, but he might want to hug you first. He might want to hug bride first. He might want to hug groom, whatever happens, however he feels comfortable or this person feels comfortable, do that, but you have to practice that in rehearsal. The last part of this transition is dad needs to wait until the bride has walked in front. So that's why I like the handoff, because the handoff means, okay, now I get to wait my turn while they walk up to where they're going to be placed for the ceremony. And then I'm not getting in the way of the train. I'm not going to trip over the train. I'm not making it weird. I'm going to stand there for 3 seconds and then I get to go sit down. That's a huge transition that I absolutely adore. This also makes it so that way you two are now front and center of your own ceremony. Just like this. Everyone is placed up there. You two are there. I then recommend that your officiant walk through a basic outline of the ceremony itself. Basic outline meaning I now give a welcome speech. And then we will go into vows. Not, here's what my entire welcome speech is for 5 minutes. Nope, no need to do that. This is the main event of what's going to be happening. While they are walking through the basic outline, you need to practice your other transitions. So those other transitions include, is there some type of unity candle? Who needs to stand where? And I say unity candle, that could mean unity ceremony. I had a couple who locked a bottle of wine away recently together. I love that. They're going to open it on their 1-year anniversary. Kudos to them. But they needed a table to be moved. Who moved that table? 2 of the groomsmen. You need to practice and know who is being designated for that position. Can we make it so that way, whatever you're doing for a unity ceremony, can be seen by the crowd. That's not just for photography purposes. Everybody likes to be able to see you during that process. So if you can face the crowd, or at least like, side angle it, that is recommended. The next transition is going to be, what the heck does anyone do with their hands or bouquets or anything else they're holding? If the dress needs to be fluffed, who is fluffing the dress? How are bouquets going to be moved? It's very difficult to hold 2 bouquets and fluff a dress. I would say it's not recommended. Can you pass those bouquets down the line and then fluff the dress and then get those 2 bouquets back? Do you need to fluff the dress at any other point? Example, if somebody is moving for the unity ceremony and then they're coming back, you need to refluff that dress. Things like that. One of the biggest transitions, which I will talk about again here, it's just a pro tip. I call it following the dress, because we're going to go into the walk in and out right here. And I'll talk about that here in a second, but I wanted to point it out here for follow the dress. It's like follow the leader for the dress. And I'll get to that here in just a second. But those are the transitions that you need to practice during that basic outline portion of things. So for the vows, who is going to have the vows? Is your officiant holding onto the vows? Perfect. Your officiant will pretend to hand you vows. It's quite simple, but it's very helpful to know when you are going to be handed something, when you're holding your significant other's hand, when you're not. Everything like that is helpful in the overall process for the next day. And again, this is the first time we're running through everything. The next thing that you're going to be doing after you have ran through a basic outline is you're going to be doing your walk out. Certain things need to happen during this time. First and foremost, you need to ask your officiant to move out of the way for the first kiss. Otherwise, you will have somebody standing right there looming over you. You can tell them that my photographer is pretty rude and has a favor to ask of you. They would love it if you could move off to the side for the first kiss. Not everyone will do it, and that's okay. That's okay. Some people are fairly old school and they have never moved before, and that's fine if they don't want to move. If they can move, it's always great. But either way, ask them, and literally you can blame it all on a rude photographer who's asking them this favor. I take full responsibility, and I'll tell them that right before your ceremony. As you are walking out, again, this is before your wedding party or anybody else moves. Do you want to have a kiss down the middle of the aisle? This is what this looks like. It's really quite fun because everybody's facing you. People are usually cheering. It's just a cute moment. Do you want to have this moment? That's just yes or no. The next day, I will let you know where that's going to be. You'll literally see me with my camera, and then I'll be looking over it going, smooch right there, smooch. And you'll kiss like wherever that is. After that, I recommend your best people, which are the 2 closest to you during the ceremony, that they wait until you have done that moment before they come together and start walking down the aisle. It's easiest if people just come together and wait for their turn to walk down the aisle. Timing for this is usually, depending on how long your aisle is, usually about halfway down the aisle is when the next people will start. It's just the simplest way. This photo is going to be very important here, and I will tell you about it in a second. But just keep that in mind. About halfway through or halfway down the aisle, the next person starts. Smiling would be ideal, but I mean, you don't have to, but like it's nice. Oh, hi, it's me again. I'm obviously in a different outfit because I forgot something here. When everybody is walking out, you need to stay in the exact order that you were just in. So the people who are on the ends walked out last and are walking in first. So that way they can go to the ends, and then everybody else can kind of just file in and fill in, if that makes sense. Wanted to throw that out there. I hope that makes sense. Okay. After you have walked down the aisle, I recommend you have everyone stay in place in the exact order that they were in, and then you're going to practice the walk up. The walk up is a little bit more complicated. This is why we don't do this at the beginning, because the walk up requires more people, and it requires more parents, potentially grandparents, flower girls, ring bearers. There's just a lot more happening, and it can be a little bit more overwhelming than when we first started, which is where just starting at the end of the ceremony, starting right at the beginning of where the ceremony would be, where everyone's standing. So as you have walked, before you walk up the aisle, who do you need? You need to know the order of who's going where. Our grandparents walking down the aisle. Not every grandparent wants to walk down the aisle. You might not want them to walk down the aisle either, and that's okay. They just need to know that they're going to be doing that. Then it's typically wedding party after that. And then it's like flower girl, ring bearer, and then it is bride and dad. Again, though, like there's other ways that you can do this. For example, Hunter here walked her mom down the aisle along with his stepmom. They didn't have anybody to walk them down the aisle. He really wanted this moment because they're both special people to him and his bride. And it was really cute. There's different things like this that you can do. And there's people that are going to ask that question. That's fine. If you are having people like, you need to know though, if the groomsmen are going to be waiting there and the bridesmaids are walking down each separately, whichever one you want is totally fine. That you just need to pick that one. The last part I'm going to talk about is right here. If you are going to have the groomsmen walk the bridesmaids down the aisle, this is what I recommend for hand placement. I think this is very important. The reason why I have chosen these 3 photos is for this reason. It makes it so that way he is steady, because she might have heels on and she needs to be steady. It also does not look awkward. It looks very gentlemanly. That is what we want. It's simple. Put your hand in a fist, put it like basically right over your belly button. That way the bridesmaid can hold on to a bouquet and then to your hand or to your arm. If your arm is like down off to the side, it looks like they are dragging you along. It doesn't look pleasant. Put your hand up like that. Very simple, very simple. So as you are walking in, this is going to be, again, the part where people feel like they're assembly lining in. That's what you're doing. I have no other way of putting that nicely. But one thing I would recommend, this is something that I personally think is really just nice for you and whoever's walking down the aisle, is to take a second with them. Right before like a door opens, or even like if there's no door and you're just walking down the aisle, take a second and soak this moment in. It's exciting. It's happening. One of you is probably going to be very nervous, if not both of you. Take a second, look at each other and just go, wow, this is happening. I love you. I'm so proud of you. I'm so excited for you. Soak in that moment. Yes, tell them about this during the rehearsal. Tell your dad you want to have a moment with them right beforehand. It doesn't have to be 6 minutes long, but this moment can be really, really awesome for the 2 of you. And it's not something that even like I will probably see it as your photographer, but it's also just a moment that not everyone might notice. And I love that because it's just for the 2 of you. Oh, hi. I forgot to talk about follow the dress like I said I would in the last video. And I want to actually explain this one because it's a great way for your wedding party to be able to see you. It looks good. It works really well. So here's what I mean by follow the dress. As you can tell, this is right before Lindsay, the bride, is about to walk in. All of the guys and all of the girls, I didn't get the girls for this photo, obviously, but they are all facing directly out. And I call it following the dress because you're literally following the dress with your shoulder as she comes up the aisle. It's a really great way for a cue for everyone to know where to look, first off, for your wedding party to hopefully be able to see her walk down the aisle and not have to weirdly crane your neck. And it doesn't look weird because everyone else, like all of his guys, aren't facing him. So he has a little bit of opportunity just to enjoy that moment a little bit more. Now, when she walks up, it's very simple. Again, this is following the dress. Do you see how all of the guys, they did such a good job. I'm so proud of them. All of them, by the way, like 1, 2, 3 of them are crying. And the best man is right here. And I know he was crying. And Hunter, I love these men. The tears are such a good thing on a wedding day. Minor thing, don't need to worry about that. But these guys did such a great job of literally turning their shoulders towards the dress. As Lindsay came down, they followed the dress and now they are in position. Here she is hugging dad. He has just shaken hands with Hunter. And now everyone is in place. And do you see it? Like, it just looks really good, but you're not trying to crane your neck as you're going down. That's what I mean by follow the dress. As another side note, do you see maid of honor here who is now fluffing the dress? This is what I mean. The bouquets we had to make sure this girl's now holding 2 bouquets, so she can hold 2 bouquets, so she can fluff the dress. That's how they chose to work this out. I just wanted to throw that out there as an added thing. Follow the dress is so nice and beautiful. So that's all for the walk-in portion of things. And then guess what you're doing again? You're running through all of it again. You're running through the basic outline. You're running through the transitions. You're running through all of that again. And then you are walking back up the aisle. Yes, it feels repetitive because it is. That's what rehearsal is. The whole reason why you do rehearsals, so that way you can feel confident in what is happening during the ceremony, or at least know that no matter how much you fudge up, you can figure it out. This is a point that I really want to emphasize for this video. People usually run through rehearsal twice, and then you as the couple are asked, do you really want to do that again? And almost always somebody chimes in with, no, I think we're probably good, don't you? This is not their decision. This is your decision as a couple. If you feel even an ounce of hesitation, just run through it a third time. It's not going to hurt anyone. It's not. I don't care how many grumbly pants there are there. This is a rehearsal for your wedding ceremony. If you feel any hesitation whatsoever, just do it again. People aren't going to die. And you're going to notice that things are going to run through super duper fast. And if that is going to make you feel better for the next day, do it. After you've run through everything, hopefully 3 times, maybe only twice, that's fine. It's up to you. How do you end rehearsal? Well, this is again, going back to the very beginning where I said that you need to have physical copies of your timeline. People are going to ask you again, if they have not asked you already, when do I need to be dressed and where? They just care about them. And that's not a bad thing. You know, we just need to know where we need to be and when. And I understand that. But that's why I say having physical copies of the timeline so people know when they need to be dressed. If you were doing a first look with dad, he needs to be dressed and at a location at a certain time. He needs to know that. If you want mom helping you get dressed, you want her dressed and ready to go at a certain time. That's very, very simple. And it's made a lot easier with the timeline. If you have any questions though about it, you can always ask me. And the next part I want to outline is the wedding details that I will need to start the day off. This is something that I know I've already sent you guys, and it's something or that you can download on your secret page. This is the list that I recommend that you put someone else in charge of. Again, this is a job for your best people. That's awesome. But this is a job that's made for them. Have them, I understand that you're going to be the ones with all these items, but have them put all of these into an area or into a box or a couple of boxes and designate one spot wherever you're getting ready for just these details. That way, when I arrive or my second shooter arrives the next day and we go, all right, hey, great. Yeah, so I'm here. I just need your details to start the day. Awesome. Here are where the details are. That way you can continue getting a mimosa, a beer, food, getting your hair and makeup done, fiddling with your bow tie, like whatever it is, that's fine. You guys are going to have, each of you are going to have your own list of what you need to have. Just put somebody else in charge of that, and that way you don't have to worry about it the next day. The last part is very obvious. Enjoy the rest of your evening. This is the part where you can chat for hours at a time. You can do whatever you want to do. I recommend, drinking some water and sleeping, but I mean, like, hey, I understand it doesn't happen, but that is the way how a rehearsal typically runs. I hope that this has been helpful for you. If you do have any questions, let me know, but otherwise, enjoy this. This is my first video that I'm making for my secret page, and I'm quite excited about it because I have found that rehearsal tends to be an area that people don't realize is as stressful as it is until about a week before you're about to do it. And then you realize you have no idea what you're doing and you need guidance. Hopefully that's what this has done. And if you've sent this along to other people, hello. I'll meet you soon. Again, I'm Stephanie of the 6'2" tall, curly-haired wedding photographer who will be showing up the next day or a couple of days, whenever rehearsal is, whenever your ceremony is. I'll be there. All right. Have a good one and happy wedding planning. I'll talk to you soon.